turtles. I hold on that keeps eternals. I hold on that keeps eternals. I hold on that beats 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 eternals. I hold on that keeps eternals. I hold on that keeps eternals. I hold on that keeps eternals.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. Either here in this big huge crowd or online, you're equally welcome, whether it's that today you're witnessing this experience or tomorrow or during the week. We're just grateful to be together today as we continue to explore the theme for the year, which is living everyday wonder. And in May, it's embracing emotions. And today I'm going to talk about the wealth that we can experience in our emotional life, which is a little unusual because most of the time when we talk about wealth, we think about outer, right? But there is a wealth of information that's available to us in our emotional body. And we can really become more aware of how we experience emotions and what kind of beliefs and opinions and judgments that we have around them and how they can truly be for our good, for our evolution, for our growth. So that's our exploration today, and we're blessed to have Susan Niedt with us from CSL Princeton. She's going to do a really cool, because that's just what she does, experience and sharing. So for those of you that are online, please check us out on our website, cslmorristown.org. There's lots of stuff happening right now. We have a book signing by Theo Tilton, who's written a new book, which is called The Practice Method, and he'll bring the book and sign it and talk a little bit about it on June 5th. On the 12th, we're doing a discovery class, which is for anybody that's curious about what we're all about and what it means to become a member. So it's just for information, and then at the end of the class, people can decide to become a member or not. Healing Circle is back in person, first Friday, starting in July, which happens to be July 1st, with our beloved Gail Belliwardo, who's a licensed practitioner, and we have the flyer over there. And this Tuesday, we have yoga, and so everybody can join us because we're doing it online with Steve Tarsitano. Anybody can do this, because even though you think you can't stretch, Steve is so great at giving alternate postures and poses and practices. The first time you take the class, you need to sign the waiver. All that information is on the website and on our weekly email. And then today, we're doing week 4 of Flourishing. And we're exploring in the book by Deepak Chopra, the chapter on the law of intention and desire, and then the law of detachment, both really powerful tools. And anybody can join for that today, just stay, or I think to sign up for Zoom might be a little bit too late, but you can try. And so those of you that are joining us online, we're so glad you're with us, that you are blessing us with your presence, that you get to experience the message, because the message truly is that there is a power and a presence for good in the world, and it's inside of you. And it's accessible, it can be lived. So let's start with an opening treatment, which is our word for affirmative prayer. So right here, right now, as I withdraw my attention from the outer world and take a breath, I remember that there is a rich, abundant inner world. It's the world of thought, the world of emotion, the world of feeling, the world of inspiration, the world of grace. And all of that wants to be experienced and lived. And so we're here today together to remember that the good that we so long for in life must first be claimed in consciousness and then shows up in our outer world. And so we truly can be instruments of peace by accessing that infinite inner peace within our own being. Trusting this, then, we become walking peace in the world, spreading our wisdom, our intention, our deep knowing everywhere we go, like little seeds, trusting and knowing that they must burst forth. And so I'm grateful to be part of this spiritual community. I'm grateful being on this spiritual path. And I know this is true of everyone who's hearing this word. And so we allow the blessing to just fill us and spill over in all that we are, all that we do, and all that we have. And so it is. So it is. So let's do our namaste practice, which is really a way to say, I see you. I see the real you. I know this is what you look like on the outside, but I know who and what you really are, which is pure spirit. And then we don't just give that, we also receive that. So just put your hands together and just bow to somebody and say namaste, which is the Sanskrit word for the divinity in me, blessed is the divinity in you. Namaste.
Namaste.
All right. So those of you who are here today received a very long list of about 271 feelings. So I want you to take a look at that list and just shout out some of your favorites. What are some of your favorite emotions?
Amusement.
Amusement.
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Expectancy.
Awe. Expectancy.
Hospitable.
Hospitable.
Oh, yeah.
Joy. Peace. Power.
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Yeah, we have a whole lot of them, right? And then what are some of your least favorite emotions?
Fear.
Fear.
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Cynicism.
Cynicism.
Anger.
Anger.
Resentment.
Resentment.
Hopeless.
Hopelessness.
Discombobulated.
Discombobulation. Exactly right. We all have in our mind this idea of good and bad, right or wrong, negative, positive, like, don't like. And that is a powerful awareness. And I want to take us a little bit deeper into that because the truth is emotions it's just information. It is just information. Isn't it interesting what we do with just information? If I am angry at someone, it's just information. But I can build a story around that like nobody else can. I can drag it around me in a sack that's so heavy that I end up having a backache. I can remember it for so long that it seems like it wasn't even ever not there. But that's what we do with emotions, right? And so what we learn about the word wealth is very interesting because we associate this idea of wealth with stuff, with material, right? But we also have wealth when it comes to our emotional life, our spiritual life, our mental life. The word wealth has at its root the word well-being, health, and wholeness. It's about patterns of health. And so the idea then about emotional intelligence, emotional well-being, is the ability to embrace all of the emotions and not judge them, but just see them as information and as a measurement of our emotional health. Because as long as I judge any emotion as bad, negative, wrong, I'm doing more than just taking it as information about how I'm feeling. Because what happens is if we make certain emotions wrong, where do they go? It's a rhetorical question, right? Where do they go? Yeah, we suppress them. And when we suppress them, we see them out here. And we point to fingers. And we make them wrong. That's what we do when somebody is angry, or when somebody is judgmental, or when somebody is hateful, or when somebody is critical, right? We tend to judge that and make it wrong. But we forget that it's something that's happening inside of us that makes us see it, because that's how metaphysics works, as within, so without. And so we either have access to that beautiful range that you have on your list, or you have resistance. Maybe sometimes a little bit of both, right? When we have access to our range of emotions, what we're saying is, I accept all that I experience, all that I feel, all that I see in the world, all that's happening as a part of my own consciousness. It's interesting, right, that when we're not aware, we say, they make me feel this way. Nobody ever makes us feel anyway. We feel what we feel because we feel what we feel. And if we don't own it and we don't embrace it, we make it about them or that. So the resistance happens when we judge it, when we make certain feelings wrong, when we are not really quite conscious that it's our experience. And that's because we are discovering what we believe. Ernest Holmes says a belief is a thought and a feeling together. So they have to match up in order for there to be any kind of movement, right? If I have the thought of, oh, I shouldn't be angry, but the feeling is anger, there is conflict inside of me. And this conflict I experience in my body, my mind, my heart, my soul, my life, my world. And so the idea is to say, oh, I'm angry. Let me just feel what that's about, because that's information. And how can I care for myself with this information to do the right thing in this moment? And so a lot of what we believe about emotions is our conditioning, right? It's the conditioning that cultivated certain emotions that we call negative because we have pain around it. And so the pain around certain emotions is just there because it wants to be healed. It wants to be brought into the fold of our inherent wholeness. That's why we hear a lot about shadow work. Shadow work is that which I don't fully embrace and own in myself, I project out into the world and I make it about the world. And so then saying, let me see inside of me and see how I can have more awareness around it. So, for example, I very much used to judge people that smoked after I quit. And so I got to really think about that. And it's a long time ago when I was new into teaching, and I got to really experiment with this idea of judging with emotion, making somebody wrong around something that I hadn't healed within myself, which was really about forgiveness, right? And so there's many examples like that. And so what I learned a long time ago in therapy is that there's like a triangle. And if we look at the triangle, and it's a triangle of fear, sadness, and anger. If fear is on top, usually anger and sadness is underneath. If anger is on top, you usually have fear and sadness underneath. And so we work with that triangle to clarify our own emotional experience and information, to have deeper awareness and a deeper understanding. I don't know about you, but I very much have been noticing with COVID and now the war between Russia and Ukraine and all the other wars and conflicts that are going on, because it's not the only one, that people seem to be losing it. Whether it's in traffic or mass murders or killings or attacking people who are different. And then there's this whole othering thing of the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, and so on, right? And so what if that is simply an opportunity for healing? Because what I think is happening is people are experiencing a level of anxiety and grief they don't even know what to do with. And so where does it go? It gets suppressed and it comes out sideways. So I think it's important for us to remember that when we see people doing crazy stuff, that they are in a lot of pain and that they need our compassion, especially those of us who are aware. And so I was recently listening to a podcast and I learned that there's actually a word for that, what people are experiencing. It's eco-anxiety. Isn't that interesting? That's a new word. I personally call it eco-grief because most people aren't walking around and saying, I am just devastated what humanity is doing to each other and what we've done to our planet, right? And so what happens too with the suppression and the repression is that addictions begin to flare, whether it's addiction to alcohol or drugs or behavior or sex or shopping or hiding, whatever, right? And so we want to look at the opposite triangle to have greater awareness, because it's also because something wants to be lived. Something greater wants to be given back to humanity and to our planet that's about healing and not about brokenness. Because the invitation is always, there is an inherent truth, an inherent wholeness within each and every one of us, and it wants to be expressed. It wants to be lived. The beauty is that it's already inside of us. It's not out there somewhere, in someone else or in something else. And so the idea is about integration, which just means making whole. It really means to remember that wholeness is something that is already within us. And so there's this really cool story that I recently read that I saw myself in, and you may as well. And so it involves our imagination. So imagine that you're walking along the sidewalk with your arms full of groceries, and somebody roughly bumps into you, and everything splatters onto the sidewalk. And as you rise up from a puddle of broken eggs and tomato juice, you are ready to shout out, "You idiot! What's wrong with you? Are you blind?" But just before you can catch your breath to speak, you see that the person you bumped into is actually blind and is lying right next to you amongst the eggs and the tomatoes. Instead, sympathy rises up and we say, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Are you all right?" And so those are often situations that can be so amazing, right? Where we may judge someone and we realize that they weren't aware, or they had a disability, or they are stressed because of something that happened, and in that moment we can reach out. And so what are some of the things that we can do? We can remember that all of life is a spiritual practice, that life really is our teacher all the time, not just some of the time. And that some of the experiences or emotions that stir us up the most are the teachings of the moment. And so what we need to do is to slow the heck down. Just slow down. When we're experiencing a happy emotion, that's easy to savor it. Although I know some people go, oh, can't feel that, too much, don't deserve it. But I think there's more juice in the emotions that we judge as negative or limited or bad, right? So it's noticing when we experience those emotions. I think you're going to have to share your little story from this morning.
I think I just might.
She has an example for that from this morning. So it's about noticing our emotions and saying, wait, it's just information. I'm feeling, use the list with the 271 emotions. Or the picture that I sent out this week with the blurb. Just information. What is information? It can be a very rich resource. Noticing how you're feeling. And then just become more aware. Become more conscious. Oh, that's interesting. Somebody cut me off in traffic and I want to race behind him and just bump his rear bumper or drive by and give him the finger or cut him off, right? Just noticing it without acting, just noticing it, becoming aware, and then letting that be your guide. Because personally, that's what I used to do, those things. But today, I have a choice because I'm aware of the information. And I can say, I'm just going to send a quiet blessing. They're probably trying to get home for a home birth or somebody that's dying. So being guided then gives us, and the slowing down and being guided, it gives us the time and the space to make a choice. If we don't, we just suffer more and we spread more suffering around us. Hence, wars, air conditioning. We got a little buzz over here. And so healing is happening everywhere. We can call it war and abuse and everything else, but what if we looked for the healing that's happening? What if we see it as healing and we think of it as a new form of wealth that we get to experience, which then always spills over in the material world. So I want you to close your eyes right now. And listen to these beautiful words by Mary Standing Otter. Right now, there are Tibetan Buddhist monks in a temple in the Himalayas, endlessly reciting mantras for the cessation of your suffering and for the flourishing of your happiness. Just take that in. Just take in all the words, all the phrases, all the images as support for your healing. Someone you haven't met yet is already dreaming of adoring you. Somebody is writing a book that you will read in the next 2 years that will change how you look at life. Nuns in the Alps are in endless vigil, praying for the Holy Spirit to alight the hearts of all of God's children. A farmer is looking at his organic crops and whispering, nourish them. Someone wants to kiss you, hold you, or make tea for you. Someone is willing to lend you money and wants to know what your favorite food is and treat you to a movie. Someone in your orbit has something immensely valuable to give you for free. Something is being invented this year that will change how your generation lives, communicates, heals, and passes on. The next great song is being rehearsed. Thousands of people are in yoga classes right now, intentionally sending light out from their heart chakras and wrapping it around the earth. Millions of children are assuming that everything is amazing and will always be that way. Someone is in profound pain, and a few months from now, they'll be thriving like never before. From where they are, they just cannot see it. Someone has recently cracked open their joyous, genuine nature because they did the hard work of hauling years of oppression off of their psyche. This luminous juju is floating in the ether and it's accessible to you. Someone just this second wished for world peace in earnest. Someone is dedicating their days to protecting your civil liberties and clean drinking water. Someone is regaining their sanity. Someone is coming back from the dead. Someone is genuinely forgiving that seemingly unforgivable. Someone is curing the incurable. You, me, someone now.
Being with me, babe, dreaming, I sleep. Lotus flower, drop of honey, precious heart, liquid gold. Take this heart, let it burn in the flame of the heart of the awakened one. Take this heart, let it burn in the flame of the heart of the awakened one. Exquisite surrender, song of the soul, singing itself back to you. The heart is a window, eyes on the sun, shining light of truth. Take this heart, let it burn in the flame of the heart of the awakened one. Take this heart, let it burn in the flame of the heart
again. It's always great to be back. So yes, I have a story to tell, a true story that happened to me on the way here. Isn't it interesting how the divine works? So I come from Hillsborough and I drove up 287, which isn't the most beautiful drive. But then I got to Tempe-Wick Road. Beautiful, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm going maybe 2 miles under the speed limit. It is quite a circuitous route. And then this hot red little car comes right up behind me, and it's like I can't even see its headlights. But I'm a good practitioner. So I'm driving and I'm saying, oh, the consciousness of God is driving my car, it's driving the red car, all is well. And then it's not doing anything, and I'm going, praise you and raise you in the name of love. I praise you. Well, this is called a spiritual bypass, because what I'm really doing is like pretending it's not bothering me. So I really wasn't observing my emotions. And so therefore, what happened? About 4 minutes later, I shouted out to myself, no one else could hear me, get yourself off my... And then what did I do? I judged myself. Because I couldn't keep it together. I judged the emotion. And then on the rest of the way here, I'm contemplating, what was that really about? Well, first of all, it was about me being right. I'm doing just a couple miles under the speed limit. You're wrong, you're too close to me. Didn't you read the book when you got your license? You have to be how many cars behind? And I do have a tendency to sometimes want to be right. So it was a very lovely lesson. And also, I was judging that man. Maybe, as Reverend Frankie said, his wife was giving birth and he was on his way to the hospital. I have no idea. But it's just a lovely life lesson. I'm sure none of you have ever experienced anything like that. But I'm sure you actually have. So what we're going to do today, That was beautiful, thank you. So I thought what would be nice is I have a little forgiveness practice, because basically it's about forgiving ourselves for our reactions, which we're giving power to. We're giving power to our reactions. And we're learning to let go. So this is a lovely forgiveness prayer from a couple of people, Strom and Sutton, who make these lovely practices. So I just want you to, for a moment, think that, yeah, I've done some things that I'm not proud of, that I judge. And then we're going to use our arms and our hands to do this forgiveness practice for ourselves, right? So first of all, you're going to take your left hand, right? And you're going to say, I forgive myself for everything I've done.
I forgive myself for everything I've done.
I forgive myself for anything I failed to do.
I forgive myself for anything I failed to do.
I love myself as God loves me.
I love myself as God loves me.
And I am grateful that God is the love that I am.
And I'm grateful that God is the love that I am.
Let's do that one more time. I forgive myself for anything I've ever done.
I forgive myself for anything I've ever done.
I forgive myself for anything I failed to do.
I forgive myself for anything that I failed to do.
I love myself as God loves me.
I love myself as God loves me.
And I am grateful that God is the love that I am.
And I'm grateful that God is the love that I am.
Isn't that yummy? So now that we're in that yummy space, I'm going to put some music on. This miracle of Bluetooth.
Battery,
Medium battery. We're connected. I'm going to put some music on and take us through a forgiveness meditation. I'm going to speak it in the first person so that you can take it as it's your own. And I will speak louder. I forgive myself So just find that quiet, loving space, feeling that supportive spirit, knowing that God is omnipresent, feeling that support, that loving support, and knowing that you are loved. In the first person, I embrace these words and encourage and invite you to take them as your own. I, this moment, know that each moment is a new moment, a new possibility. I observe my bath of emotions. I observe with equanimity and calm. I observe in freedom from judgment. I observe with open heart for the love that I am. And with open heart, I have forgiven myself for my perceived foibles, accepting that my life is directed by the one power, and that is a power for good. Yes, this moment is a new moment. Far removed from my emotions, I am transported past all obstacles in my way, and being in the flow, I forgive until there is nothing left to forgive, and I am able to let go. My life reflects harmony and poise as I accept the essence of divine giving and divine forgiving. Fear fades before faith, and joy overcomes despair, because I know this moment is a new moment. I no longer serve the confused, discordant part of my thinking or create dark side to my nature. Instead, I welcome the comfort of spiritual grace brought on by forgiveness. Freedom is my experience in the eternal here and now. I surrender any thoughts of separation to the all-embracing goodness of the beloved. Because I know this moment is a new opportunity. This moment is a new moment. I come to peace, understanding the true relationship between interconnected events and God's intentions. Love, harmony, and beauty inspire higher visions of light, uniting me with its radiance. And letting go, I am encompassed by the power and the glory of life, allowing me to feel the freedom of self-love and love for all humankind. I enjoy my freedom as I sit in this place of the Most High. My communion with the Eternal Spirit. I bask in the glow of unity. I bask in the glow of unity. This moment is a new moment. I am free. So I invite you to just sit in this love for self, because loving self is loving the creative expressor, the divine who created each one. Enjoy this moment of divine love and this freedom that comes from understanding this truth. I and God are one. I and God are one. And now, very slowly, bring yourself back into the space. Wiggle your fingers or toes. And open your eyes when you are ready. And thank you for experiencing this experience with me today. Namaste.
Well, that was lovely. So one of the reasons that we are here today and that you're able to show up and we get to be in this space is because of people's generous support. And so there's many different ways to do that. They're on a list over there. If you need that, you can give over there in the basket. You can go to our website. And just remember to think of it as not so much giving or sometimes losing, right? But gaining, not just for ourselves, but all the generations to come. So that Center for Spiritual Living Morristown can be a place that you experience for others in the future. So we invite you to think of it as sacred circulation. We have something new. It's called Treatment Express. And that means that the practitioner of the day, when they're willing and able, will do a spiritual mind treatment and affirmative prayer for you. This is boom, boom, boom. If there's more, you need more than boom, 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 then you can contact any of our practitioners or the practitioners from Princeton to set up a time, a session. But Susan will be right over there, and you'll go over there and say, please treat for, do a prayer for, and then she'll do a quick treatment. Isn't that great? So enjoy that if that's what you need. And then at 12 o'clock, we start our little circle here for flourishing, where we now explore the law of intention and desire. They go together. And the law of detachment. And we're going to have fun. So anybody's welcome to stay. It's an hour-and-a-half class. Doesn't matter if you haven't taken any before or aren't taking the last one next week. Just join us for an hour-and-a-half to explore and experience just a deeper awareness of what it means to experience wealth and flourishing at all levels. So let's close with the healing treatments. I invite you to put your hand on your heart. And for a moment, just feel what's happening in your heart. What's become more aware? What did you notice during our celebration? What stood out? What's something that you realize you want to be free of? And then just put your hands in your lap and imagine that that thing is in your hands. And that's what this affirmative prayer is for today. Today we hold in our hands, in a sacred, gentle, compassionate way, that which requires our forgiveness, our compassion, our love, our patience, and our growth. And so we just let it be there. And we trust that it is the spiritual law, universal law, God's spirit, grace, the beloved, the divine presence, infinite intelligence within us to take care of it. So that we can just let it go and trust that it is being healed. And we can be free to live a life well lived. This way, we can shift our focus from what is troubling us to what is wanting to be lived, what is wanting to be enjoyed, what is wanting to be experienced and be grateful for. And this then is expanded by universal law itself. And as we give it freely, it continues to come back to us multiplied abundantly. So today, we welcome the celebration that is the demonstration of this word. And so it is. Thank you so much for visiting with us. See you again soon.